Peace. Power to the people. Black power. Power to the youth. Power to the nation. This video is being recorded in documentation of the terrorization of Abdul Salaam and Abdul Salaam, Tyrone West, Baltimore City. We're going to depict the specific officers or officer in this case that was one of the officers involved in the microcosm of the lack of accountability, transparency, and pattern and practice that myself, the West family, and other coalitions that supported the relationship of our two unique cases in 2013. To start with my and my son's incident on July 1st, 2013, driving home is the first day that we encountered Officer Bermudez Ruiz, excuse me, as if I should even utter his name with any type of respect, right? But this gentleman was one of the three officers that followed me home, profiled me and my son, and this officer specifically was one of the ones on July 1st that subjected Amir at the time, 3 years old, to a search and seizure and drug type of search in the vehicle on this hot summer day, right? So as I was being manhandled and handcuffed, kidnapped, as they were found guilty of, and brutalized, Ruiz and his other partner Omen decided to go into the van at this time. We had an Odyssey minivan, family van, and it was, as I said, July 1st, in which we were in preparation for a big 4th of July cookout that we do, a family cookout. And in the van, this particular day, we had just went grocery shopping for the family event and had big bulk groceries. If you're familiar with Restaurant Depot, the type of groceries that will come from a Restaurant Depot. And Bernice and this other officer, Chapman, decided to monstrosize and just do a drug type of search through the groceries. And when I say that, they tore open the groceries, threw the groceries throughout the car, went through the glove compartment and other pockets of the car, and just kind of like threw unnecessarily threw and destroyed the van. And at this time, if you could imagine, Amir is 3 years old and he's in the middle row in the passenger side behind the front seat, in the middle seat, bucket seat, strapped in, and he's crying helplessly as he can hear the experience of me being brutalized, as well as he's just seeing these two big grown men with guns drawn approach the car and just kind of like destroy the vehicle while he's in it, helplessly. After Ruiz decided to stop destroying the van, and I guess there was nothing else to tear up, and of course there was nothing in it to find and seize, as these are narcotic cops, plain clothes cops, right? So once we leaves the van, at this time I'm on the alley ground, and the officer Omen had decided to pick me up by my feet, and while I'm upside down, handcuffed, I kind of look up in the air, And I asked Ruiz, I say, "Are you gonna let him do this to me?" And unbeknownst to me, ignorant of me, naive of me, he was the only brown officer there. So my my naivety thought, to ask him, are you gonna let this type of terrorization continue? He just kind of looked and scoffed me off, and they proceeded to drop me on my head, hog tie me, and immediately when I fell on my head, Ruiz dropped on the back of my head and neck area, if you will, face first on the ground, in a wrestling type of action, and kind of hit his knee against my neck and head area. I'm, dazed, um, scared for my life at the time. Of course, these are all on the cusp of the Trayvon Martin case, and he's in litigation and court and things of this sort. My son's in the van. They hog time and they haul me off, and I can remember as clear as day. Uh, Once I was in the paddy wagon, and the paddy wagon navigated throughout Northeast Baltimore to make at least two more stops. Some of the other civilians that entered and boarded the paddy wagon, asked me. They could see what had happened. What happened to you? What's going on? And I explained what happened and described who did this, and the other gentleman, in disgust, immediately told me who these officers were. They had a reputation, and which even was more disappointing and disgusting to me, because as a civilian, taxpaying civilian, community advocate, why would this be something that you would perform on myself? And even more, in question, what would give you the right and the audacity to carry this type of terrorization out in front of my 3-year-old son, right? So, the gentleman on the paddy wagon, in total disgust, we got to Northeast District, and the driver of the paddy wagon also, at the officer, gave me a moment of empathy, and asked what happened and what did I pull up to? What was all of that? How did this happen? And I described to him what happened, and he told me I was preaching to the choir, and how he knew the reputation of these 3 officers. So he immediately, after explaining to him the story, went maybe 20 paces to talk to another officer in the back of the Northeast District and explain to him what had taken place as well. And this officer, I could hear him, I couldn't see him, but I believe from the tone of his voice, and cadence of his voice, he was a white officer. And after hearing what had happened, he immediately says, "Are you fucking kidding me? Again?" And these last pieces of the story are parts that it took me years to understand were a significant part of the story, because these pieces of the story depict and are vivid and genuine accounts of the credibility and or the character, speaks to the character of these officers. So that's our family's unfortunate experience with Officer Ruiz, his partners, and sadly enough to say that we've learned since these many terrorizations of Ruiz that he's been promoted as all three of the officers. But once again, this is not to any surprise to myself or any other individuals that are part of the fight that we know of in Baltimore. And if you're part of our coalition, if you're part of our inner circle, our grassroots organization, we know that there's been a strong pattern in practice, misleadership, misguidance, and reassurance of mispolicing the community. So we will continue to fight. We will continue to advocate. We will continue to have legislation change. We will continue to lead the nation when it comes to this narrative.